there. Welcome to California Festival of Speed Virtual Edition, coming to you live and in Technicolor from my boyfriend's office, aka the Coffee Monkey if you follow me on Instagram. I'm Lara, I'm ThatPorscheGirl, and California Festival of Speed is an annual gathering of the Porsche Club of America Zone 8, and normally it would be at a racetrack, but this year we are going to be doing it online and virtual. So we have interviews, contests, sim racing and more, and we're really happy that you're here and joining us. And today I'm fortunate enough to have the infamous and famous and amazing Jonny Lieberman. So thank you so much for joining me, Jonny. I'm so happy that you could meet up with us today. Not that you could go anywhere else anyway. You're stuck.
Right. Well, thanks for having me.
So I'm just so happy that I was able to trap you because you're one of my first picks for sure.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm stuck at home like the rest of the world, so it's a pleasure to do this. It's fun.
Everyone is trapped, so they had no option but to just be stuck with me. So it's a good thing.
The Porsche Club, even though I actually just became a Porsche owner not long ago, they've always been really good to me, and they're made up of pretty great people. So this is a pleasure and an honor. So thanks.
It is a good group, and so that's why I'm doing it as well. And obviously my moniker, the Porsche Girl, is ThatPorscheGirl is probably why they thought of me. On to cars. I actually am more,
I want to talk about.
I'm more interested in when you first got interested in driving in general. And I had heard somewhere that you had learned to drive at the age of like 11 or 12.
Well, okay. So the first question, when I first got interested in cars, I mean, one of my earliest memories was my dad had a Datsun 280Z, which he always described as an engine and a steering wheel. But and I grew up in Thousand Oaks, which is on the other side of the hill from Malibu, and he would always just drive around Decker Canyon and all the great roads out there. And so I just remember being strapped into the front seat of that thing, and he had a Blaupunkt tape deck that had a mic input. And he would ask me questions and like interview me, while he was driving around. So it's kind of like what I do for a living, like drive cars and talk about them on video. I was kind of doing it when I was 3 years.
You could hear yourself in stereo as you were driving?
No, you just record the tapes and then play them back. And I have them somewhere. I think they're all on a reel-to-reel, which my reel-to-reel player broke about 2 decades ago. But yeah, one day. Then I remember, when I was 5, I was just always obsessed with cars. When I was 5 or 6, like my biggest desire, this kid I knew, Chris something, his dad made him a go-kart, and I got to drive the go-kart once. And it was just like a, downhill, you call it a soapbox racer.
Soapbox. Yeah.
We thought it was a go-kart. And he may have put a lawnmower engine. I can't remember, but my dream was to have a go-kart. And for whatever reason, my parents never let me live out my dreams. So now I get to live out my dreams by driving things that handle like go-karts. So.
Well, seeing how you drive, I can see why they probably didn't want you behind the wheel of anything. So
it's the second question. My dad, he always said his dad taught him to drive when he was 12, and he never had an accident or I think he had 1 ticket his whole life. And he always said that, if he'd learned to drive even earlier, he would have been a better driver. So
yes.
I was a very large child. I kind of stopped growing when I was 12.
Okay.
Stopped getting taller. So I could, when I was 10, I could see over the steering wheel fine. So he taught me to drive when I was 10.
That's amazing.
His thinking that it would make me a safer driver. So
I agree. I actually learned to drive stick when I was either 11 or 12, and I would do it around 10 o'clock at night with my mom. And we would, it was a manual, which I was told you have to put the clutch in before, or it's going to stall. You got to put the clutch in. And we were coming down this hill. I'm 11, maybe 12, maybe on the cusp.
Yeah.
I put that clutch in and the car just rolled farther, faster. And I almost rear-ended a Cadillac. So you learn very quickly what not to do at the expense
I remember, my dad, when I was, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7, he used to let me shift. That was I'd sit in the passenger seat. That's back when you could sit in the front seat. But he would just he'd clutch in. All right, third. I put it in third. So I love that. And then when he taught me to drive a stick, which was later, but I remember he did the smartest thing. He took me to the bottom of a good hill. It's not the steepest, but pretty steep hill. And he walked to the top and just said, get up the hill. And it was it was
Well, he
this
wasn't in the
horrible.
car? He wasn't in
Oh,
the
no,
car.
no. And it was this horrible. God, it was an old Nissan Stanza wagon that he
Nice.
had used for his business, like just before SUVs, and he never wanted a pickup truck, but he had a print shop, so he just delivered stuff with this little station wagon around Ventura. Anyways, it didn't matter what happened to the clutch. I think he was like selling it or it was done or whatever. Anyway, so I got the thing up the hill. I mean, it took a half hour, but I got it up the hill, and guess what? I can drive sticks up hills, and I used to live in San Francisco. Came in very handy. So
When I got my license, I got it the day I turned 16. I probably wasn't even 16 yet because I'm born at 4:45 p.m. So I got it the day. And the next day we took off, and I had been driving since my friend got her license. So I had snuck out with my mom's car. I was just a hellion. So, and everywhere I went was pedal to the metal, floor, like everyone was like, we would just see you go by so fast. But my mom, I was a pretty confident driver by the time I got my license, and my mom would just recline the seat and let me drive. And I just can't imagine being that way. I'm such a control freak. And we went to San Francisco, and she's like, I can't do these hills. You've got to do it. And so I learned heel toe, the whole thing. So it's really, that was my first foray into driving and driving a stick on hills. And it was no joke on some of the hills we were going up. So I appreciate that.
cool.
So you are a senior editor at Motor Trend?
I'm the senior features. There's only one of us. Yeah.
Oh,
and somebody made that up because I was the senior editor, and then they gave me a promotion, but they had to make up a title. So I suggested food and beverage editor or food and beverage director, which was one of the titles that De Niro had in Casino.
Oh,
but
nice.
Said, nah, let's not do that. And
doesn't work.
They made up senior features editor. So I'll take it. But really what I have done for the last a long time was and I still do write for Motor Trend, but I was making videos. I had people probably know me from Ignition, which is a one car driving program, and then Head to Head, which was the more popular, more famous one. It was two cars going against each other.
Oh, it's such a good show. I actually watched it yesterday. Just as it's funny because I know you, but I as I was approaching, I was like, well, I need to know more. I just need to know more before I go into this interview.
My best friend and my wife and a lot of other people, they've never seen it either, so don't feel bad.
No, I had seen it before I'd watched it, but I wanted to refresh myself. But it's such a good show. It's shot so well, and you guys, you're such amazing drivers. And I have a question for you: Who is the better driver between you and Jethro?
Oh, Jethro, hands down. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, look, I will say, he first of all, he's a stunt driver. I mean, he literally could just be a career stuntman. He's maybe not so much perfect car control, but he's really good at drifting. But he's incredibly quick. He's a race car driver. He's won. I shouldn't say won, but he's driven the Nürburgring 24-hour race. Wow. I think he's done 4 times, and that's hardcore because the Nürburgring is a hell of a track, but the 24-hour race is insane because unless you're a GT3 car, you're getting passed the entire time. You spend a lot of time at night, and then the weather there is it's crazy. It'll go from 85 degrees to snowing to ice on the track to a monsoon within a lap. He's a much better driver. That said, on a good back road, I'll keep up with him.
You hold your own.
Yeah. I push the accelerator as well as he does. He's better at braking.
Oh, okay, good to know. So what I know that the first time that I think I ever saw you on Instagram, you had commented about some guy that had gone off the road, or he was driving over his head. I think it was like in a Lambo or something.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was I was driving the Lamborghini SVJ. So
you were driving the Lamborghini. That's right. And somebody else was trying to challenge you. Yeah.
I was in the Aventador SVJ. So in the background there, I don't know if you can see it, but Angeles Crest is just over yonder. And so I had to go over Angeles Crest and Angeles Forest to get to Willow Springs because we were going to have Randy Popes lap the SVJ at Willow Springs the next day. Luckily, I think the day before, I'd gone up there with Magnus just to drive the Lamborghini around, and it had been kind of wet. And the conditions are terrible up on Angeles Crest when it's wet because, you know, once you get to like 4,000 or 5,000 feet, it just, you know, it's things freeze, mud, rocks, everything. Rocks are the real killer, actually, on Angeles Crest. So anyways, it was foggy too. So I'm going up there, and I remember we turn onto Angeles, before we get to Angeles Forest Highway. Anyways, you go up Angeles Crest, there's a left, and that's how you get to Palmdale. Before that, there was this red Porsche behind me. So I knew how bad it was, and it was foggy. So I'm going like, 40 miles an hour in the Lamborghini. Could the Lamborghini have gone faster? Of course. But, it's like this $600,000 car. I want to get it there in one piece.
Exactly.
And Porsches, but they're really on my butt. And I'm like, wow, like, what are these guys thinking? Da, da, da. Anyhow, long story short, they eventually passed me on a double yellow. And then I don't care, whatever, and then I'm following a car, and the car in front of me suddenly just takes off to the side. And I look, and there's a wheel and a tire straddling the double yellow line. And I get on the brakes. I luckily miss it. And then I look, and there's a red Porsche Cayman spun around backwards about 10 feet off the road down in the ditch. And there's two dudes standing there like, And I think they were from New York. They were probably 23. They had a car, so they rented somebody's car.
Oh,
and decided at night in the rain, in the fog, to take it over, one of the craziest roads in the world. And they totally wrecked it. And it was funny because I was like, wow, boys, like, good work, first of all. Second of all, when I get to the bottom, I'll call the sheriff for you. They can come get you. And they're like, no, we'll just call them. I'm like, look at your phones. Oh, yeah, because there's absolutely no reception up there whatsoever. And then I was like, also, you should go get that tire out of the road.
Oh, my God.
People are going to hit it. And, yeah, so both the tires on the passenger side had popped off the car when it went in the dirt. So
oh, my God.
Yeah, so a wreck, and they just totally lost it. And they were lucky because you could fall down like I've had friends who've done this, like a 300-foot cliff. And then no one will find you till the next morning. So they got pretty lucky. They hit like an embankment, but they crashed on the cliffside, not on the mountainside.
They probably wish that they crashed and went off the road because the hell that they probably had to pay.
I mean, yeah, I guess they probably got their tour accounts canceled.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. But the Lamborghini made it there in one piece, so that's all that really matters.
So, and you drive Willow Springs. Obviously, it's one of our local tracks. I've spent a lot of time up there, mostly motorcycle racing, just watching my ex race and that kind of thing. But so I know it pretty well. I just was up there for streets with Mariana Small. She did Accelerating Change, where women get out there and drive. So it was really a cool event. And it looks like they've actually paved it recently, so it looks a little bit better.
Looks like they paved it. They resurfaced it, which is different than moving it. So it's still the same, post-apocalyptic 1950s asphalt with some like fresh black glue on top, which actually has worse traction than it used to have, and lap times are kind of down about 3 seconds a lap on both tracks.
Really? I would think it would be stickier. That's interesting.
No, somebody needs to pump about $30 million into that place, but no one wants to do it.
Oh, well. So if you have your choice, was it the Salt Flats that you were doing the Camaro and the Mustang? Was it Salt Flats you did that?
El Mirage out in the Mojave Desert, just a dry lake bed.
Such an impressive. The shots were so amazing. I loved it. I loved the burning out, all the stuff that you guys were doing, playing around. It was just amazing.
That was I believe our drone guy was oh God, I'm black.
Oh, he hates you. He hates you right now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so mad at you.
Makdad. He's got like a PhD in like astrophysics. He used to build jet fighters for the Iranian army, and now he flies drones for Motor Trend. Him and his wife. He's hysterical. But anyways, yeah, I think he did a lot of the drone work on that. And that was, it was a fun episode. That was an early one with Jethro. That was a lot of fun. So,
that was an early one? Because it was just
Jethro. I think we shot 119 episodes of Head to Head or something. We're on hiatus right now. Jethro's doing Top Gear USA. I'm doing this new project. they never want to say canceled, but we're on hiatus. We did 8 seasons, and I was pretty happy with that. Pretty good
Well,
for a show.
it's a shame because it's a great show. I actually, it's so
Yeah.
informative, and you're an encyclopedia. It's the craziest. I know you and I spar a lot on Instagram, and you call me the Googler, which is so true. But I'm actually informing myself as well. I'm such an information junkie, and I think you are too. I think that's where we hit it off. But your encyclopedic head is crazy. I mean, I my hat's off to you.
It's pretty empty as far as other stuff goes. But yeah, I've always had that. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to memorize like my favorite issues of like Car and Driver. Never read Motor Trend; it was terrible. But like Car and Driver, yeah, it was. The new car buyer's guides. I used to just memorize like, that has a 2.4 liter, inline four. It makes 89 horsepower and 97 pound-feet of torque, and it's, whatever, overhead cams. I used to memorize all that stuff for every car. So I have this like muscle memory where I can just remember things about cars. And it's nothing else, sadly. But yeah, I can.
Do you remember your wife's birthday? Probably not.
Yeah, June 8th.
Oh, good for you. She's so proud of you.
That one I remember. Yeah.
There was actually, speaking of her, there was another interview I watched of you, and she's a sword swallower. I mean, I was completely dumbfounded. I was like, I need to meet this woman.
She's a very high-powered attorney, actually. But before she became an attorney, yeah, she was a sideshow performer. She went to Coney Island Sideshow School, and so she would pound nails up her nose, jump on piles of broken glass, put her tongue in a mousetrap, and swallow swords. And she was one of very few female sword swallowers. So she actually made something like a living doing that.
It makes sense why she's with you, because, I mean, she's got to be dealing with a lot. You have a biting wit, obviously. Do you exercise that at home as well?
Yeah, sure.
You drive her crazy.
She gives it back much better than I ever could give it, if you know what I mean.
You need that to keep you in line.
I don't know if you've ever been to Philadelphia, but as Andrew Dice Clay said years ago, they run over pedestrians for sport there. It's a tough town.
That's amazing. I love it. Okay, so you've been around the world. We've discussed that you went to Nürburgring, and what was that experience like?
Oh, I mean, it's my favorite. I love it. It's I always say it's like Mecca for car people. And what I mean by that is, so, you have your big, fast, powerful sports car, right? And you meet the average person here in America, and they'll say like, 500 horsepower, what do you need that for? Well, you go to the Nürburgring and everyone's like, only 500. Like, I guess you could get around the track once or twice, but you really need more power than that. You know what I mean? It's like, culturally, it's a car centric, not only like track, but the town, the hotels, the restaurants, everything revolves around sports cars. So it's just like, imagine going to a foreign country and it feels exactly like you would imagine home to be like. It's absolutely wonderful. And then the track itself is like, I always find myself doing this. Like I'll drive like Spa, and it's like, oh, Spa's the best. Or I'll go and I'll drive like, where do we just drive? In Connecticut, Lime Rock. It's like, oh, Lime Rock, what a great track. And Laguna Seca, wow, it's incredible. And then you drive the Nürburgring, you're like, oh yeah, all other tracks are so inferior. So I always say like, Spa's my favorite track, except for the Nürburgring, which is my favorite track. It's just, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's 13 miles of a green hell, as Jackie Stewart called it. It's just the most lush green German forest, just with this world-class crazy racetrack in it. That is, it's all, it's also while there are parts that are very technical, it's not like, there's not a ton of braking. It's just a lot of going fast and like going high speed corners, which I love. I think like modern racetracks, they'll get a bunch of dudes together and they're like, I'm a great driver. I'm a local instructor. So every corner has to be a blind, off camber, throwaway, decreasing radius, and they're what's good about great racetracks like Lime Rock is you just go, you don't stop, go.
Or like Laguna Seca, which it looks like they've done some improvements over the years to not
Yeah,
let people go off.
well, Laguna is interesting because there's huge braking zones. Laguna is actually probably harder on a car's brakes than most other tracks, and it's because there's so much crazy elevation all over the place, and elevation really wreaks havoc on brakes. But if you just drive it, you don't think about how there's all these braking zones. It does feel like a flowing track. I think also older racetracks like Lime Rock and Laguna Seca, they have 9, 10, 11 corners. That's it. So they're really, you can learn them quick. Big Willow, nine turns. Whereas like modern tracks, I was on one in Phoenix with 27 turns. You're never going to learn it because A, it sucks. B, you don't like it because it sucks. And it's just like, I feel like there was like 38 guys, and it's like, yeah, blind, downhill, off camber. Oh, and decreasing radius. And it's like, that's not fun. That's just slow. And fast is fun. You know,
See, I kind of think it's fun to have that technicality like of Laguna Seca where you're going down.
Laguna's like, again, there's a technicality to it, but there's no, except for turn 11, there's no throwaway corners. In other words, you're always moving. Turn 11, you got to really slow it down, but that's it. There's only one. And there's so many, like, again, the more modern tracks, like so much of it is just you slow down to like where you could use first gear. Why would you want to use first gear on a racetrack? You don't. You want third and fourth, fifth, you know? So anyways, that's,
So you're always all out, pedal to the metal. You don't want to even barely.
No one's. I mean, I wish I was that good, but you want to be going. You want higher gears. You want higher speed because I can. You know, if you're like a first gear corner is going to be like 30 miles an hour. I can drive 30 miles an hour anywhere in the United States. That's dull, you know. But like hammering a corner at like 90, that's exciting. You know, that's what's cool about racetracks. So, anyways, the Nürburgring is. It's 13 miles. If you're good, you can do it in about 8 minutes in a decent car. I can do it in about 9. And you're hitting, 160 miles an hour at certain points. So it's super fun.
That's amazing. I don't know if I could do 160. I'm a little bit of a chicken. The most I've done is 140. I cannot do more than that, I don't think.
Yeah, you can. Sure you can. Yeah, and again, it's a big long straight. It's easy. You just keep your foot in it and the car goes.
That's true. Some cars you can't believe you're going that fast, and so I guess I just haven't been in the right car.
Well, the other thing too is on long enough straight, like 160 feels slow because you want to be going. You don't want anyone passing you, and people will pass you.
So talking about Nürburgring and how fast it is, how amazing it is, I had also talked to you earlier about the fencing and how expensive that is in case you go off. How much is that?
I have gone off. I didn't really go off. I just forgot there was a chicane in this one spot. But I never hit a fence. But I think it's like €1,000 for every 10 meters, and that's for the fencing itself, the material. And then you have to pay for like them removing the old fencing and then the guy's labor to install the new fencing. So, but my favorite thing at the Nürburgring was we were going around one time and suddenly yellow flags are out and we slow to a crawl and we're in line and we're passing it and there was an Audi A6. And so like in Germany, an Audi A6, not an S6, not an RS6, just a regular plain old A6. It's like a Chevy Impala here. It's just like an executive rental thing or whatever. Anyways, it was on its wheels, but it looked like the roof had been crushed in. And we're just creeping by it. I'm like, oh, that poor guy. And he crashed at this place. I think it's called like Brickyard. And it's a really tricky section of the track where if you're doing it right, your left tires will be on bricks and your right tires are on asphalt, right? So it's very tricky because then you start turning on that surface and it's tough. That's where it happens. Anyways, I get back to, and everyone hangs out in the parking lot. And this kid runs up and he's like, check it out. And he had the crash on. It's already up on YouTube. And it was amazing because the car, he just messed up right there, shot across the track, hit a barrier, bounced back on the track, and rolled a few times. And then I go, wait a second. Why was somebody videotaping an Audi A6? Like there's McLaren and Ferraris and mega Porsches and AMGs. Why does anyone care about an A6? They care because in Germany, it's illegal to take your rental car on the Nürburgring. Lots of people do it. So they hire these kids, and they're like 18-year-old kids to sit there with video cameras. And in Germany, if you have a rental car, it says so on the plate somehow. There's some marking that says rental car. And so the kids, they just get video of the cars illegally on the track, and then they turn them in and they get a little bounty, and the people get fined, right? So the kid just, that's where he happened to be sitting and just got the whole crash. It was amazing. But
Well, it looks like I have an entirely new job now. Right now, I'm not working, so maybe I should just go over
yeah,
there and start filming people. That's
just
just
go narc on people
I'm
renting cars.
I'm wasting my time. This is crazy.
Yeah. No, you should. I always tell people to go to the Nürburgring. It's cheaper than you think. Oh, so like you get to Europe. Okay, you got to get to Europe, but once you're in Europe, it's easy and cheap to get around. It's right near Frankfurt, major airport. You could probably nowadays, once this is back to normal, airlines are going to have deals. So you could probably fly there and back for less than $1,000. Once you're there, rent a car, $300-400 to rent a car. You can get a day pass for like, I think it's like 200 euros or $230. And then last time I stayed there on my own, not for work, we got a bed and breakfast. It was like 3 of us split. It was like 60 euros a night, and we got breakfast. So you can do it super cheap. Not super cheap, but like, maybe like $2,000, and you could go have the best weekend of your life. It's just absolutely.
Yeah,
And because you rent, they give you these little Renault Clios on slicks, which I've seen guys keep up with McLarens. With amateur drivers in the McLarens, but a good driver in a good handling front wheel drive car on slicks is, it'll keep up with almost anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Italy, and the people who drive the Clios and are just flying past you, going as fast as can be. There's either a grandpa going 4 miles an hour, and you're coming up on him fast, and you're gonna, or someone's on your butt, and you're for sure going, like you got to get out of the way. No one totally, like everyone abides by the left lane, getting out of the speed lane, except for grandma going like 25 miles an hour.
Italian grandmothers are notoriously aggressive drivers. Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah, well, I've seen either, it's one or the other. It's just you don't get, you get high speed or no speed. There's just no in between, so you can't just go at normal speed. It's crazy.
No, driving, I love it. It is, most people hate it because it's crazy, but I drove in Moscow once, which is hard to explain how insane it is, but like it was challenging, so I really liked it. But I was going to just say, like, the most humbling experience of my life, there's a guy named Frank Weissman that works for Porsche, a former journalist. Now he's the North American PR guy, so every time I want a 911 I call Frank. So we went there, me, him, and this guy Calvin, who now he also works at Porsche. We went there just for the weekend. I had months in advance, I had a Targa, my favorite 911, and they were like, "What are you doing? You have a few days off between programs." And I was like, I don't know, I was going to go to Hamburg and check it out. They're like, "Well, come to the Nürburgring with us." Okay.
Amazing.
So Frank is driving a diesel Audi TT on winter tires. Okay. That's a Volkswagen Golf with an Audi body on winter tires, and I'm in a Porsche Targa. And it was a GTS, right? So it's back then, that's probably the 420 horsepower naturally aspirated one. I couldn't pass him. Now, he wasn't getting away from me, but I could not pass the guy. It was so humbling, like no matter what I did. So yeah. So like, and I talked to him afterwards, obviously, and he's like, "Oh, I've done thousands of laps on the Nürburgring. It was my home track when I worked for Automoto Unsport," but still, it's very humbling.
But
Yeah.
I want to know, did you become a great driver while doing head to head, or were you always a great driver, or did you do racing, or what was it that got you driving?
So when I became a pro, meaning someone paid me to write about cars, I decided to get really serious, and I took a few high performance driving classes. And look, I've had a very charmed career. So like right when I got to Motor Trend, one of my first assignments was hanging out with Justin Bell, who former GT2 champ, I think twice, won the Le Mans 24 hours. So I drive around with Justin, and he's like, do this, do that. And he used to have his own driving school. So that was helpful. And then for, 8 years, I saw Randy Popes at least once a month. And, Popes, Daytona 24-hour winner, SCCA Hall of Famer, absolutely incredible because he's in his 60s and he's still quick, very quick. And again, that's his side gig is he's an instructor. So you just hang around him and, like I'll be driving for camera and he's like, you're really hopping off that brake pedal. Like try and come off it like the opposite of a throttle, or whatever. So, there's that. I just do a lot of driving, like it's just like anything. Like, how do you become a great rider? You're right. How do you become a great driver? You drive.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I get to do that. And then I think competition plays into it. So like, especially on the video side, when we started everything, it was this guy, Carlos Lago, was sort of the other guy doing the videos with me. And, he's a fine guy, but we had no love lost for each other. So there was some competition there, and then he left and we got Jason Camisa, who he's my frenemy, let's just say. I love the guy, but I also hate him, but very competitive, and then when Jethro showed up, like I can't really be competitive with him because his skill is just off the screen. Real pro's pro, but I still have my pride, so I try really hard, but I can also learn a lot from him. So
exactly, you're in good company, and it's like playing with a tennis player that's better than you. You look better when you're playing with a good tennis player.
Yeah. Well, and then look, I mean, everyone on staff, not everyone, but most people on staff at Motor Trend are incredible drivers. Like Angus McKenzie, used to be a rally driver. I mean, I remember last year we have this program, Best Drivers Car, and I was in the new 911, the 992, and Randy Popes was behind me in the Jag Project 8, and then Angus was in a Hellcat Challenger Red Eye, and he's basically keeping up with me and Randy. And the whole time over the radio, he's like, "How do you put it in sport? How do you put it in sport?"
Yeah.
But he turned the screen off, and it's like, I'm mid-40s. These guys are in their 60s, and like, I was ahead of them, but not by much. You know what I mean? And like, so we push each other. And even when we go do a comparison test, if we have 3 sporty cars, there's going to be 3 editors driving real hard because, mentally we're all 12-year-old boys, and it's what it is. So practice. That's, I think is the key,
Exactly. And so during this time, you've still been getting cars delivered to you, albeit wiped down and passed off like a diseased something. I don't know. So they clean off the key. I've seen who else writes? Hannah Elliott is also getting her cars dropped off in conspicuous places and picking it up. And that's so interesting to me that it's continuing to go on and you're still writing articles about the cars. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we're media, so we're essential services. But I mean, I had a Subaru, really cool car. It's the WRX STI S209. So it's the $65,000 Subaru hatchback, or not even a hatchback, just a little front-wheel drive thing which of course makes 341 horsepower and is actually all-wheel drive and is really good. But it came with a placard on the steering wheel. This car has been sanitized or something like that, and it's great. And
I hope you took pictures of that because these are things that we need to remember. We're going to forget all about this in a couple of months, probably, or a year, and not really realize the impact.
I'll send you a picture when we're done, and I'll put it on Instagram, which, as we know, is the real permanence these days. But yeah, no, it's been great. So what I've been trying to do is get a car in every week and then just write about it. So we do a socially distanced photo shoot, and we have a whole protocol. Like basically, I drive to meet the photographer. We spray each other with bottles of alcohol. Sadly, not the kind you drink, the isopropyl stuff.
And whiskey on the inside. Every once in a while, you got to clean yourself out.
Still, drinking and driving is still bad.
That is not okay. You're right.
Yeah. Well, once cars can drive themselves, it'll be fine. So as soon as we get to that point, I don't know. I'll get a Porsche Speedster on Monday. So I have a lot of plans for that. Aston Martin, DBS, Volante, all kinds of fun stuff. So
that's awesome. You also just did a Turbo S. And was that the one that was convertible? Was it a convertible Turbo S?
He didn't have the convertible. I had a Carrera S Cabriolet. Motor Trend, we had 2 turbos. We had the Turbo S and then the Turbo S with the funny body kit. I forget the name of it. and they haven't even announced pricing for it, so it just showed up. We don't know anything about it or what it
Okay.
does because it's not in the press material. Yeah, the Turbo S is annoyingly good, as Jethro would say. And it's like, it's like just you want to knee jerk hate a $200,000 car because only rich jerks can afford them. But and he actually coined that term. We drove the Ferrari Super Fast, which is $404,000 car, the one we drove, and it was so good. And he just said, "Yeah, this is annoyingly good because you want the old rich dude who's driving it. You want to be like sucker, but they're actually driving a good car, and that's how this Turbo is. It's unbelievably good, and it's funny because the Turbo, the Porsche Turbo is always not always, but lately it's been incredibly quick. Like 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, quarter mile 10.5 seconds, which are stupid numbers. It's always been incredibly luxurious, not always, but recently, last couple generations, luxurious. It's been super capable. You can do anything with this car, but it was missing the X factor that like the Porsche GT cars, the GT3, GT3 RS, that those brought to the table. That was always missing from the Turbo. So it's like, yeah. The Turbo's for the orthodontist, right? That's the surgeon's car. I say that because my I have horrible gums, so I have to see not only a dentist but a periodontist. And my dentist and my periodontist, they're catty corner from each other, and they both. It's been a couple of years since I looked at hers, but they both had black Porsche Turbos, right,
Yeah,
simultaneously.
it's definitely a dentist car. That's just so funny because I think my dentist has one as well.
Yeah, of course, that's who bought them. And that was the knock on them, was that you're buying this fast luxury thing, but it's not for real. The purists get the GT, which I'm sure the next GT3 will be even better than the greatest thing ever made. But the new Turbo is really, really, they really did something special with it. Yeah, it's a good car. It's a really good car.
I've been spending most of my time in the air-cooled cars, so I feel like I need to go down and drive some of the new cars, because even just getting into, I actually drove around with GI Jen from Pekla.
Your
And
beautiful 356.
no, oh yeah, I've driven in that too. That car is just ridiculous. I love it. It's so
Yeah.
cute. And next to my little 911, we look really cute together. We love it.
Yeah.
But she has a red 911, I think 991 or 992. She might have a 992. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not even familiar with the newer cars. I need to go down and test drive a few. But
Get some
yeah.
press cars. Get some press cars.
I need to get some press. I need to understand how we get things dropped off at our doors with wiped keys. That would be amazing. So
it's not a bad
precision
way.
driver. I'm a precision driver here. So I'm not like you, but I don't bump into things. So that's good. And I learned how to drive at 11 or 12 and have never had an accident. I've been hit, but I've never had an accident.
I've had 2 accidents, both solo car accidents. One while working. It's hard to make video. One, I'll just say the car wasn't. I was on the phone with the manufacturer complaining about how the car was malfunctioning. So, yes, I was at fault, but not really.
So lastly,
yes,
let's discuss bread, because
bread.
if I see one more bread that hasn't been delivered to my house, I see that Magnus is getting bread.
Yeah, he gave me.
I see all the cool kids are getting bread, but not this girl. You can't make me one loaf of bread.
It's the barter system, right? So Magnus made me 6 masks, 2 for me, 2 for the wife, 2 for the kid. Spike is going to give me paper towels, because while toilet paper has returned to the shelves, and we really didn't need any that badly, but paper towels, or at least in my neck of the woods, are still they're hard to find. And so you said you listened to the Spike cast, so I was mentioning how my wife took some old curtains and sewed napkins out of them, and he was like so horrified by it that he got me paper towels. And so we're going to trade bread for paper. And so everyone knows what we're talking about. I make my own bread, and it's pretty good. But for you, we'll think of something.
Yeah, I'm going to work it out. You said take a ticket, and I was like, I have a number 1 ticket. And you're like, no, you don't. So yeah, I'm going to get that bread if it kills me.
Okay, cool.
I'll meet you halfway, but
yeah, socially distanced, but yeah.
Maybe when both of our press cars get dropped off, we can meet up halfway somewhere. That would be a good thing.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and
Of course, my
be
pleasure.
our comic relief as usual. I always look forward to all of your interviews, and you keep it really real, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate, even though we spar all the time, I really appreciate your knowledge, and pay attention to it. And I really am thankful that you joined us today.
Well, thank you so much. It
All
was
right.
great. It was great talking. This is a lot of fun, and we'll do it again.
I hope so.
Okay, cool. Until then.
All right. Bye.